Welcome back for another book talk video. Even though it's Writer Wednesday, sometimes I do a bonus talk instead of a writer's talk. On January 8th, Pay Attention on YouTube mentioned that he wrote a book. So I went ahead and found that book, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. I went to Amazon, and I don't know if I was the last person who got the paperback books that were available. Maybe other people who saw his video that day went and bought them as well. But when I went back the next day, all that were available were ebooks. So you can still get this as an ebook, and it's really inexpensive. I gave the book 4 out of 5 stars, which means I thought that it was awesome. I really did enjoy this book by Pae Veo. It's very philosophical, and that's what I want in a book. It's really insightful. It will make you think. I actually posted a review on Goodreads saying it's an amazing debut collection of short stories. They range from introspective tales of self-discovery to deeply philosophical parables. I especially like that the stories evoke the sense of writers such as Vonnegut, Heller, Kafka, and even the poet Saul Williams, since some of the stories contain a wonderful sense of rhythm and poetic flow, especially those at the end that he calls animals. I hope the author will release more books in the near future. And I mean that. It's a really great book. The bulk of the book is the short story Searching for Marilyn Monroe. It's about 30 pages or so long, and the only trigger warning I will give you is a couple of these stories deal with suicide, which is a very serious issue, but Pae Veo handles the issue very well, I believe, and it comes across in a way that works in the stories. I've said on many occasions that I don't tend to like stories with suicide in them because it has to be handled well, and it is handled well in this instance. So the book is divided up in stories, parables, and animals. The animals are short, poetic stories as well. You need to know what a parable is really to appreciate the parable section. I do think that if you go into that expecting regular stories in the parable section, that might surprise you. But I have to say, something that I really liked about this was that I have been speeding through a lot of books. I've been reading a whole lot lately, and you cannot do that with this book. After each story, I had to stop reading and think. Like, I really had to stop and reflect on the story, on the characters, on the ideas that were explored in the story, and that is great literature. That's what I want out of a book. It's made me realize, as I've been kind of speed reading through a lot of books, that's because a lot of literature these days just doesn't offer that philosophical insight, doesn't require you to stop and reflect and really think. So I'm really glad that I was able to experience this book with all of these stories. Something else that I liked about the story Searching for Marilyn Monroe was that it evoked a sense of the writer Albert Camus. It reminded me of The Stranger. It also contained letters in it, and I love stories that are told in an epistolary fashion with letters. I'm just a sucker for that, seeing how time goes by. The main character in the story is a really fascinating character. I also really like stories that deal with the South in Louisiana, so it was fun to have that setting there. There's a very meta story called 53 that is about characters and writing and consciousness, and it's worth giving a look as well. The parables, as I was saying earlier, are real thinkers. Like, as you read each parable, you're probably going to want to stop and pause and allow yourself to think about what that story really means and all the possible implications. Probably my favorite parable was A Bar Named Work, which also had some humor to it, though the guard reminded me of Kafka's Before the Law. It had, to me, that same sense of theme, same philosophical, psychological bent to it. I could go on and on. The Poplar Tree was another great parable in here, which makes you think about the difference between the inside and the outside appearances. The Railway was another good message for people to think about, as well as the prison. When I got to the animals section, I wasn't sure what to expect as short stories, but I figured out that they are poetic, rhythmic, short stories. There's one in here that calls back to Of Mice and Men called Tending Rabbit, but overall, it's a great collection of stories. I highly recommend it, and like I said earlier, since it's on Amazon so cheap as an ebook, you might as well pick it up. Hope you enjoyed the bonus book talk today. Every day is a good day for a book talk. Peace.